Welcome everyone to another quick anti-tech video here live on our channel. A user, that is the thing, right, with all the YouTube PR I do here for our amazing Linux distribution. Obviously we get more users, interest and so on, and obviously all the problems of the wider IT industry start to pop up, like stuff I avoid but other people have to use. Like Intel rapid storage technology, right? User said another day, T2, our amazing news distribution, wouldn't recognize their NVMe drive, and I was like, oh, yeah, YOLO, whatever, works for me. And they came back, it's like, yeah, actually, you know what, it's this Intel rapid storage technology, and I was like, do what? And so, unfortunately, this is an Intel thing that means a lot of things, including decade-old. I remember this pseudo not really hardware, software right stuff. There's apparently some matrix write and stuff. This Intel's matrix storage manager technology, IMSM, whatever, that can be used in map with Linux MD80M and device map array. But so the other thing, look at this stuff, right? It's like decade of random storage garbage. And I mean, most people hated the software right anyway because performance, obviously, right, back in that day. But so most people didn't recommend to use it anyway. And then, but whatever. And so the new thing is, however, and they see everything but the kitchen thing they have thrown in here for decades in Intel's rapid storage technology. The thing is also, you say one thing and it can mean anything, right? But the newest thing is that they, the last years, also did this especially for NVMe drives, and I would call this totally questionable. The only thing is then if you pair that with an Intel Optane, which is now also defunct, right? But so the problem with this stuff is that, as per usual, Linux support, right? And turns out that some complete garbage technology here. And first I saw it is upstream, and initially I found this in patches. And at first I thought it's upstream, but then on a closer look it isn't. There's an Intel RST driver provides modifying parameters and systems with Intel's rapid start. There's so much to RST. I overread. Anyway, so this was not that. So I think it's not yet upstream. At least I couldn't find it in some minutes. And so there are patches floating around. Intel apparently sent something in 2016, and then people cleaned it up because it was complete questionable code and stuff. And also, as per usual, the stuff wasn't public, so people started to poke and reverse engineer it more. And Daniel Drake, I think mostly, maybe someone, Daniel Drake and whoever, as far maybe from Fedora and who knows, one of the other 1972 Linux distributions, came up here with some patches. But as usual, the thing with Linux, right? Patches exist, but I don't find them upstream, at least on a quick glance. So what is the problem with this stuff? The problem, when I look at this, I know why it's an upstream, because Linux kernel maintainers like ourselves totally get stomach headache and need to throw up on their keyboard when they see this. Because when you read the summary from 2019 already, you get a good impression what garbage of an anti-technology that is. And I really have to wonder, like, it's no wonder that Intel is going down, which instead of focusing on processors, they also need to do everything in between, and not even mentioning failing IA64 Itanic, but graphic cards and storage and network stuff, right? Previous video. So the problem with this stuff is that Intel SATA AHCI controller support a strange mode where NVMe devices disappear from the PCI bus and instead are remapped into AHCI PCI memory space. And so the problem with that is that then they are not supported by any standard AHCI or NVMe driver, right? Like, who in the freaking world would have thought that that is an amazing idea? So many current upcoming in 2019. And so the problem is that the users that wanted to use T2 has some laptop where you can't disable it. Normally, like, disable this piece of junk, right? Except when you have some integrated laptop BIOS thing where you barely have options and can't disable this, apparently. So there exists a handful of devices where you can't disable this bloody mode, right? In this bloody mode, they write here, AHCI controller in the RAID or Intel RST Premium, like premium aka total garbage, with Intel Optane system acceleration, which, like, spoiler alert, next to nobody has Intel Optane, which actually, do I have cables attached? Is that? Nearly nobody has an Optane except I in my RISC-V cube. But it is another story. Share, like, and subscribe. But without Linux support for this remapped mode, the default out-of-the-box experience is that NVMe storage devices are inaccessible, which may cause the only internal, in many cases, is the only internal storage device, right? And so when you continue to read it, I thought, and this is exactly my recurring criticism, right? Why are my channels so negative, right? Because I know too much. It is exactly the same thing with my software, exact scan and scanners. When people always ask me what scanner to buy, it's like, yeah, we support 500 scanners with our own drivers, but I know too many details all of them. So I have it a little bit hard to recommend because peak bugs, right? And it's exactly the same thing here, right? We can't have nice things because everything in the industry, including Apple Silicon and macOS #peak bugs, are full of bugs, right? And major, in quotes, AAA, I mean, maybe I should stop calling peak bug companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Intel, and AMD and stuff for that matter, AAA companies, because considering how many bugs these AAA companies have caused over the decades, like from quick and dirty operating system, DOS and Windows, right, which we still have the legacy today, and all the real mode that is still mostly supported in, like, not only real mode, like, look, all Intel, Spectre, and Melton security bugs, right? So, however, in most cases, the SATA controller can be changed in the BIOS, resulting in the HCI and NVMe devices appearing as separate devices. As one would expect, changing this configuration is recommended for power users because there are several limitations, like Intel Rapid Premium Storage technology, except star, quite some serious limitations, more to them in a minute. So yeah, change this option to not Intel Rapid Data Nirvana destruction stuff, but so changing this configuration may not always be possible. However, it is also important to support this remapping mode of, like, kernel developers, right? Recurring theme. People send patches like myself and then, like, yeah, YOLO, we're not implying this, right? Same case here, right? However, it is important to support this yet 2 years later. 2 years? 19, 20, 21, 22, 4 years later, apparently. So I don't find it upstream. So increasingly common product default, why can't we have nice things in the industry, right? Because PCs and laptops are shipped by default with broken Intel's broken premium technology, right? Premium anti-technology. This patch implements supporting this crazy mode. Here, Intel stopped, so, like, also a summary, right? Originally posted by Dan Williams, 2016, yet we are here 7 freaking years later. Intel stopped developing, Intel Rapid Premium, but Intel stopped developing these patches and hasn't been responding by emails on this topic. AAA major company. More register documentation, however, appeared in some 300 series PCH datasheet. They tried, Christoph suggested approach of exposing those devices as fake PCI bus. Also, 2019, remapping and exposing strangely Intel chipset hidden devices as fake PC. I was like, how far have we gone, right? Fake PCI buses for strangely hidden devices requiring for not requiring NVMe driver changes. But Bjorn does not think that this is the right approach and instead recommends another approach in some other email. More consumer devices have appeared with this setting as default. It's like, yeah, and why don't we have the year of the Linux desktop? Because 7 years later, I don't think it is upstream. At least I didn't instantly find it. Heard hardware vendors that this Linux incompatibility is causing them to consider discontinuing Linux support on affected products. It's like, yeah, then the little official Linux support that was there is discontinued because they're not supporting Intel's broken security. Supporting then patches on current kernels, added docs and references, incorporated new register information, incorporated feedback, pushed the recommendation, users back HCA mode. Investigating MSIX support, can't quite get it to work. I was like, yeah, it's like lack of documentation. I was like higher performance message signal interrupt. It's like, yeah, can't get them to work, but hopefully we'll figure out in later in those patches chat and more details. And so it is crazy, right? That where are the drawbacks? The drawbacks are, there's some listed here. Here's the drawbacks in this. So this technology in those, as far as I can see, right, you could argue like 20 years ago in this fake hardware RAID, you had the benefit of having bootable, like BIOS supported bootable RAID, so that you, instead of Linux software RAID, where you would have non-RAID boot devices, there would at least be a little bit of shared metadata RAID information between Intel's Matrix RAID and Linux Device Mapper, MD-ADM. But here, they are mostly, or they are, I would call this, they are only drawbacks, right? And this is this kind of stuff. I need a solid keyboard, nothing like a CNC machined aluminum keyboard. What is wrong except vendor login, right? Vendor login, just like at Apple and Microsoft. Because for consumers, there is no benefit on normal laptops. Apparently, according to this, no NVMe device power management. So you lose low power management control. You lose some minutes of battery life. No NVMe reset support, no NVMe quirks based on PCI ID, no SRIOV, as IO virtualization, VFs, and reduced performance through a shared legacy interrupt because their method signature interrupts do not work. So a whole lot of fuss of remapping, hiding devices from their native mode for people who don't usually even have in like which laptop ever, like you have one NVMe, right? You literally, you're not accelerating your NVMe with lower latency, but usually slower Intel Optane. It's absolutely craziness that this made it to the market. You could argue that for this Optane accelerated desktops, it maybe made a tiny little bit of sense. Although I would still argue, even then, I would probably implement it in some shared metadata format. It's absolutely crazy that you would use some crazy firmware-based RAID Optane acceleration stuff. It's also the Wikipedia website mentions more criticism. The software created also like do not base your business or solutions on vendor proprietary, vendor locked in, usually hashtag peak bugs and quickly phased out anti-technology like this, because not only Linux users but also Wikipedia of Windows users, the software created by Intel to manage the RAID configuration is under par. It's like recurring theme here, right? I'm not the only one who notices that. When using RAID 1 configuration, Windows shall show a temporary message when one of the disks are down. However, also temporary, right? However, this is not noticed because the user is not at the computer. The user might not notice the disk failure in time. Like who thinks like temporary displaying a bloody Windows message like for a minute or 5 is a proper disk failure notification? Furthermore, the Intel RST software does not consistently log status changes, repair, rebuilds in the Windows event log, making it difficult for third-party monitoring software to warn users when the RAID status changes and the data might be in jeopardy. It's like Intel, totally unprofessional, not rapid, not smart, anti-storage technology. I have no further words. Other strange decisions Intel has made is to remove the email warning from the latest version of the software. Earlier versions, the email warning can be configured but lack the modern fields like password, SSL, TLS authentication to be used with modern email providers like Gmail, Microsoft Outlook, and email accounts from other providers. Also, when field tested with an old mail server without authentication, totally professional, What could possibly go wrong? No warnings were emailed. maybe that is the reason why it was removed, because the bloody feature wasn't even freaking working. Intel also used to have command line software for their RST RAID, which one could use to request the status of RAID drives. However, the software was deprecated. The conclusion might be made that Intel is deliberately undermining the reliability of the RAID, also like totally professional, by crippling the methods to warn the user before data is lost. I have no further words, except professional Fortune 500 business like I know it at work. What I will now do is go through all the stuff. So for the stuff, of course, multiple patches here are needed. Most likely they will not simply apply anymore. I slightly wonder though, so this is it even, oh wait, this is the wrong thing. This is right, this is wrong I looked at. So there's also some AHCI remap support required in AHCI, which is of course totally annoying, to have this custom code in the NVMe driver, which is probably why they mentioned here to some suggestion of some fake PCI bus there, which probably opens another kind of works, but kind of worms. But it is of course pretty annoying to have this crazy remap stuff in AHCI proper. I wonder why is this not. Why is here a remap check? Here's already some remap. I slightly, but I don't think these patches are adding. Who knows what strange remap check that is, or maybe it displays just a warning. What do they remove? Maybe they just. We found a remap device. What does this actually? We could, for readability, straight read the. You get it colored for your syntax highlighted code. Oh, here's some remap though. But maybe this is only check, so maybe there are often implement SFF compatible interface, script all PCI bars. So maybe this remap is found remap NVMe devices, switch your BIOS. Okay, so this is only displaying, okay, so this is not full support just as a just right now expected. So the Linux kernel has support to apparently warn you, like, hey, this will not work. Good luck with that. Switch it off in the BIOS. Which probably, again, most users would also not see, right? The recurring theme. If you boot something, you do not necessarily read your dmask. And anyway, so yeah, I will try to pull these patches in and can see if I will probably check some other distributions if they have these patches in newer than from 2019, because most likely the only constant is change and regression. So this will, of course, not just apply to the Linux kernel. But it's crazy, right? My biggest, the reason I made this video is just to share this tech inside craziness of this does not compute, right? Company after company, Microsoft, Intel, Apple, AMD, Google, creating completely failed from the very initial realization failed anti-technology that has no reason to exist, that everyone with some common sense would never implement, suggest, and littering the IT landscape everywhere and all the legacy, and why we can't have nice things and everything is broken, right? So this kind of crazy decisions linger everywhere, right? From HTTP to TLS and email and web, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you name it. I hope you enjoyed this and learned something. Don't forget to like, subscribe, but increasingly, of course, we maintain not only failed Intel Titanium IA64, DEC Alpha, SG iOctane, P3, but then also failed Intel not rapid storage technology within T2 Linux. Have a good day or night. See you next time.